Welcome to my channel, All for Health with Jane Family. On this video, we are going to watch Advocate Mnisi as he is analyzing MmaKhumalo's statement, trying to understand the reasons why Brigadier Gininda associated the descriptions on this statement with accused number 3. Advocate Mnisi, according to him, doesn't understand why Brigadier Gininda say the person who was described on this statement is accused number 3. And he still wants to know why more questions were not asked to MmaKhumalo, as MmaKhumalo was one of the people who were in the house when Senzo Meyiwa was murdered. But the response by Brigadier Gininda says now that he was not the first investigating officer. By the time he meets with MmaKhumalo, already these 5 accused were behind bars. So, meaning the questioning of MmaKhumalo, the ones that Advocate Mnisi is suggesting, where those questions were no longer relevant when they met with MmaKhumalo. That's my understanding as far as what Brigadier Gininda is explaining. Family, let's watch and listen.
Thank you. That is all that I'm interested in. I may repeat it for the sake of brevity.
No.
But I don't need to.
I think we understand each other.
Thank you.
I hear. I've got a statement in front of me, so
Thank you,
Thank
you, Brigadier. Now, what Mrs. MmaKhumalo is doing here is basically describing the suspect. Sorry. Actually, one of the suspects that she saw on that day, particularly the one that was carrying the firearm, and which the state drums so hardly and wants this court to believe that it is accused number 3. But let us analyze the description that MmaKhumalo actually gave with regard to the suspect that was carrying the firearm. She says the first one that was carrying a firearm had short dreadlocks that hang up to his neck. Now, having read this statement as an investigator and having come to this paragraph and having saw that Mrs. MmaKhumalo says that the first suspect that was carrying the firearm had short dreadlocks that hang up to his neck. Were there any further questions that you asked her in relation to the to her identification of the suspect?
So my lord, firstly, I think, and I'll say that I think maybe Advocate Mnisi maybe missed it. So because I dealt with this part, I said you missed this.
You say Advocate Mnisi must be doing what?
No, I said
sometimes
maybe you
when
missed.
talk, I'm sorry, Brigadier. Sometimes when you talk.
I hear you. No, it's fine. I'll try to speak loud. I'll try to speak loud. I'm saying, I think Advocate Mnisi missed this part because I did deal with it, my lord, that the witnesses who were in the house, they made different statements. Now, for example, the statement that I'm referred to is A58 of Ms. Khumalo. The first statement she made is A12. If you look at what we've disclosed to them, it's A12. That is the first statement. So that is why it's important to look at each statement and so that one can follow when this one was made, it was in relation to what. The first statement that was made after the incident happened, it was day after, 27th of November 2014. There she simply describes the dreadlocks, and we can go to it because it's a very short statement. She simply says one of the intruders had dreadlocks. She doesn't describe, it's contained in this statement, whether they were up to their neck or not. That is the first statement she made a day just after the incident, few hours. This one that Advocate Mnisi is referring to was made in November, days later, and this was, I think, in preparation of the ID parade that they were trying to look at, if my memory serves me correctly, my lord, in relation to this Mr. Mbata I was talking about. So that is why I'm saying you need to look into it in that context. Now, when you analyze the two statements, my lord, you cannot then say you want now to rely on the one that says the dreadlocks were up to the neck and ignore the other one where she says the person had dreadlocks, because in both statements she doesn't, and I'm talking specific with regard to Advocate Mnisi's client, nowhere does she say it's accused 3 specifically. She simply describes that one of the intruders, the one that was wearing a beige jacket, and other witnesses, and when we get to them you'll see that, my lord, they'll say a brown jacket, was simply having dreadlocks. So in one statement she says dreadlocks, in the other one she says up to the neck. So you've got 2 descriptions of dreadlocks. The bottom line, what I was saying, my lord, in collaboration when I was asked by Advocate Mnisi, is that you can see indeed that accused 3 on the 26th of October 2014 had dreadlocks. That's the essence of my answer insofar as the dreadlocks are concerned, my lord.
Kule statement lesakhe-ke MmaKhumalo kufundeka ngalendlela-ke ithi lo owokuqala owayephethe ispam wayenama-dreadlocks amafishane ayephelela khona la emqaleni noma entanyeni-ke. Ingaba khona-ke omunye umbuzo owalandela-ke uma esho lokhu MmaKhumalo. Impendulo ithi-ke uma ubheka lesi istatement u-A58 esenziwa-ke ngoNovemba wawo-ke unyaka lowo wesigameko, sikhona-ke istatement sokuqala-ke asenza MmaKhumalo wona, sona-ke wasenza-ke kwilanga elilandelayo ngazo i-27. Lapho-ke ukhuluma nje kuphela-ke ngama-dreadlocks-ke. Manje uma sikhuluma-ke manje ngalokuhlanganisa-ke noma ukuthola-ke lokhu okuhlanganayo-ke okushiwo yibona-ke noma-ke okukhulunywa yibona-ke abantu noma-ke bona-ke ofakazi laba, siyazi-ke ukuthi ngeyi-26 zika-October 2014 yena-ke amele u-Advocate Mnisi unumber 3 wayenawo-ke ama-dreadlocks. Manje-ke awukwazi ukuthi ubheke lesi kuphela-ke istatement u-A58 ungasibhekanga esinye lesi engikhuluma ngaso. Uma ngingaphazami-ke futhi cabanga ukuthi lesi istatement uma ngabe sasenziwa-ke kwakulungiselelwa-ke i-ID parade le eyayizoba khona.
Yes, my lord. And the one, the A12, was made, like I said, my lord, basically few hours after the incident happened, because it's basically the following day. It was commissioned on the 27th of October 2014 at 1500 hours. She was narrating what she saw. She described the person with dreadlocks, not that they're on the neck. A month later, couple of weeks, because it's November, then she says they were up to the neck. But like I said, my lord, it was in relation, insofar as I can recall, to the ID parade, and that is why I'm emphasizing that you can't now say this is now the proper identification of the person with the dreadlocks, because then what do you say about the one that she made just few hours after the incident happened?
Ngoba lesi-ke sona-ke sangeyi-27 amahora nje ambalwa-ke emuva kokuthi isigameko senzeka-ke la khona nje akhuluma kuphela-ke ngama-dreadlocks. Ingakho ngisho-ke manje-ke ukuthi awukwazi ukuthi ungathatha njena lesi-ke la asho ukuthi ama-dreads aphela kuphi-ke, kodwa lesi-ke usishaye indiva sona-ke.
Yes, my lord, that's my answer.
Thank you, Brigadier. My question, Brigadier, is, actually my question was, and still is, did you take up the issue of the identification subsequent to paragraph 6, having read paragraph 6, take up the issue of the description of the perpetrator who had or was in possession of a firearm on the day of the incident? Did you take that issue with Ms. MmaKhumalo?
I don't recall, my lord. But like I don't recall. But like I said, my lord, at that stage when we met Ms. MmaKhumalo, the accused were identified. That part we were already far ahead. This was not the beginning. That is why, my lord, if you look, and that is why I try to explain that and that's my understanding, and I'm sorry if I understand Mr. Mnisi wrong, Advocate Mnisi, that when A12 was composed and then subsequently A58 was composed, it was at an initial stage, my lord. Police were trying to find grabs of identifying the perpetrators. There was nothing else they had, my lord, which is a different situation when I came on board. So we started on a different angle, and it will create a confusion if we don't understand these angles, because this was the initial stage. They needed to rely on the people who were in the house to identify the perpetrators. When I got involved, I received information initially from Zungu, then Mr. Absalom Zungu kicks in. We got to accuse number 1, then the first confession kicks in, supported by confession by conduct in terms of pointing out, my lord. Then exhibit HA and JJ kicked in. So we built on that. It's not the same approach as it happened here. We approached this matter from different angles.
Lana ke kuzofanele ke sibukeke ukuthi ke uma kuthathwa le statement ke kwakusemaqaleni ke okwenzeka ke noma kwenziwa kwalo ke uphenyo futhi ke nohlangothi ke olwaluthathwa ke laluhlukileke uhlangothi engathi mina ke uma sengiqala ke manje ukuthi kube mina ke ophenyayo ngangena ke noma ngathatha ke uhlangothi ke oluhlukileke lona ke lolo ngoba ke ila khona ke manje sekune statement ekhona evelayo sakhe umsolo wokuqala futhi ke seyokhomba futhi balandela ku HH kanye naye ke uJJ okungenza ke ngendlela ehlukile ingakho ke ngithi uma ngabe singawalandeli ke lama approach noma le ndlela ezahlukene ke ila kuzoba nendida khona.
Yes, my lord. So I do not have a recollection of us ventilating paragraph 6 as Advocate Mnisi is asking me, my lord.
Angikhumbuli ke nanjengoba engibuza ke uadvocate Mnisi ukuthi esekushilo ke lokhu MmaKhumalo okubhaliwe ke la ukuthi ngase ngimbuza kabanzi ke ngakho.
Thank you. This is I think it's an elementary approach to every investigating officer, let alone an investigating officer at a commissioned level. There's a witness who says, I was in the house, I saw this incident happening, and the person who was carrying a firearm had dreadlocks that hung up to his neck. Then what an ardent investigating officer would say, Ma'am, are those the only features that you saw of this, now I'm trying to assist. Are these the only features that you saw of this person that you said was wearing a firearm? You say he had short dreadlocks. What else can you remember about him? What about his color? What about the clothes that he was wearing? What about his height? What about his movement? What about his gait? What about his this? What about his that? What about... That is what an ardent investigator would do. Now, from what I'm getting from you, you did not do that, not so?
No, my lord.
Thank you.
No. When I say no, I'm saying no to the assertion you're making. I'm not agreeing with you, my lord. I'm saying, my lord, and I think I've explained this. It was not a one-on-one discussion. It's not the same, for example, when I interviewed Mr. Mazala with regard to this. There was no prosecution involved. I indicated the difficulty or the situation that was that when Mrs. Khumalo came, she was legally represented. So when we met her with the state advocate, we met her under the supervision of a lawyer. And obviously then discussions then ensued from there, my lord. Now, and I've already indicated as well, my lord, that because of the ID parade that was then done back then, which was an issue, there was a decision taken. I don't want to take the court back on that, my lord. So, but the point of clarity as one of the witnesses who were in the house was important, my lord, and a lot of issues per her statement were ventilated because I recall questions that were arising as they were taken up by the state advocate and I think myself were in relation to the statements that she made, nothing else, to say this is what you said, what your recollection, etc., etc., etc. So it was in that sense, my lord, but I do know, as I've said, that the position was never taken to say she must be part of an ID parade, my lord.
Lana ke njengoba bengishilo ke lokho ngaphambilini ukuthi ke kwangasimina ke owayehleli ke ekhuluma naye ke MmaKhumalo nanjengoba kwangafani ke nangenkathi ngangine interview kanye naye ke uTumelo ngishilo nokuthi uma eza ke noma uma ifika MmaKhumalo wayehamba nommeli wakhe nomshushisi ke futhi ke ekhona ke lapho noma esebuzwa ke imibuzo ke kubuzwa mayelana nezitatimende zakhe azenza futhi ke ngasho nokuthi ke uma kuphathelene noma kuya ngendaba lena ke yayo ID parade lapho ke akuzange khulunywe naye ke mayela nakho lokho.
So the essence, my lord, of my response is that it is not the same where as a IO you approach your witness with the hope of getting identification evidence or to establish whether your witness can identify a particular suspect. It is not the same when there's a watching brief, because some of the things as they are communicated, the attorney comes in because obviously it's there for the purpose, my lord. That's not a similar situation, my lord. So in essence, I'm saying one cannot then be said you should have done 1, 2, 3 as if it was a sole situation where me as the IO, I'm sitting with the witness and then I'm expected to do certain things to get a certain result. That will apply if it's one-on-one or I'm there with my team. But when there's a watching brief and obviously there's a state representative in terms of a state advocate, I think the rules of engagement are different, my lord.
Engikushayo ke lana ukuthi ke kuyahluka ke nokuthi kube yimina ke noma ngihamba nethimba lami futhi ke siyoba ne-interview nomuntu ke lo noma ngihlezi naye ke kuphela ke kodwa lana ke wayihamba nommeli wakhe futhi ke nomshushisi naye ekhona ke ungathi ke ubuza lokhu kube la ummeli angenelela khona ke iyehluka ke manje indlela ke osebenzisana ngayo nomuntu uma kuwukuthi ke kukanjalo.
Yes, my lord, that's my answer.
Thank you, Brigadier. You know, it's very interesting. When you are saying, even the prosecutor was there. Because these are the essential, because the prosecutor knew that one day very soon, I'll have to go to court and tell the court that, hey, these are the people who were involved in the commission of the offense. And this is how they are linked with the commission of this offense. One of which is the capability of the people who were in the house to identify them. When you sit there with the prosecutor interviewing, as an investigating officer interviewing a witness, irrespective of whether or not there's an attorney there, an identification of a witness, the description remains a description. Now, we are basically saying, in essence, you never take through this witness. You never ask this witness about the color of that suspect. You never ask this witness about the height of that person who had a firearm in his possession. You never ask this witness as you interviewed her in the presence of the prosecutor or conjunctively with the prosecutor about his movement, his gait, his tone, like as in his voice. Never did those things. How were the braids? Yes, you had dreadlocks, but how were they? Mama, can you explain these dreadlocks? You never did that. Did you actually do investigation here, Brigadier Kennedy? I'm sorry, I withdraw that.
We're already on record regarding what we think, and we submit with the greatest of respect that this is irrelevant evidence. What happens during consultation has got absolutely nothing to do with the evidence that is being given in court, and we've already, my lord, placed on record that this whole trajectory of the cross-examination is irrelevant, but we will leave it at that, my lord. I don't know whether it was expected of Brigadier Gininda to keep notes of the consultations and to now answer the questions that is being asked regarding the these issues about the tone of the skin, the height, and the movement. But we leave it at that, my lord. Our objection is on record.
As it pleases the court, my lord. Let me start with the last one. Those are very relevant identifying features, my lord. The voice, the tone of a person, his movement or gait, very relevant identifying feature. But in the main, the state says, was Brigadier, the witness here, expected to keep a note of the discussion that happened between him and the witness? I think the state is shooting himself on the feet. It's this very same witness, my lord, who told this court about his engagement with accused number 2 when the confession, not the confession, when he met him at Carltonville, he said to this court, I introduced myself to him. This is what I explained to him. This is what I did to him. This is what I did to him. This is what I did to him. What was then the difference between what he did with accused number 2 and what he ought to have done with this witness, such a crucial witness who had an identifying capacity to say, these are the people who accosted us that day? I find the objection extremely misplaced, my lord. Extremely misplaced.
As a God, please, my lord. Advocate Mnisi said earlier on that he's familiar with the Mtetwa case. These issues that he's raising, those are the issues that should be left for argument and can be argued at the end of the case. This witness cannot be confronted with those issues, my lord.
My lord, as I am doing here, the state is just not aware that I'm preparing for something. I know that ultimately at the end of it all, I'm going to refer to state versus Mtetwa very deeply. That is what I'm going to do, my lord. But my cross-examination to this witness cannot be circumscribed with an understanding that later on I'm going to refer to Mtetwa. This is an investigating officer, my lord. He's a lead investigator. Remember, the state told this court that Brigadier Kininda is being, basically the state said he's saving the best for last. In other words, Brigadier Kininda will come here and sum up everything. So why should we then say he was saving the best for last for purposes of argument? No, you must probe. We must probe. And we'll keep on probing, my lord. And I see nothing wrong in what I'm doing, my lord. But I am not cross-examining a policeman who said I was only involved in arresting. This witness says I interviewed the witness who were in the house. But I'm getting somewhere, my lord. May I proceed, my lord?
Yeah, but the way I understand this witness,
Yes, my lord.
he's saying by the time Mrs. Khumalo Senior came with her attorney,
Yes.
you already, according to you, you already knew the identity of the persons involved.
Correct, my lord.
I mean, that's how I understand the evidence.
That's it. That's what I said, my lord.
I'm getting there, my lord.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's how I understand.
Yes.
So asking him about the gate, etc., maybe he thinks it was superfluous because you already know that MmaKhumalo is the one who shot Senzo.
That's what I'm saying, my lord.
I'm getting there, my lord. I think
Mr. Khumalo, I see you agree with me. If you knew that MmaKhumalo shot Senzo, you're still interested in how I walk? I don't know. That's how I understand this evidence. Yeah, but you say you're getting there. Go there.
yes, I'm getting there, my lord. A bit of a patience. Thank you.